Welcome, welcome, welcome to the TCAT 10-Minute Take. It is I, your host, Sheree L. Stewart, and with me, as always, is the lovely Don the Legend Chambers from crystal clear Orange County.
Yes, it is.
And today we are talking about our kind of slate of holiday falling movies, not holiday movies, but movies falling on the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
And we're talking about Wonder Woman. But before we get started, make sure you click that subscribe button and you click that bell to get all the 10-minute takes as soon as they drop. Mm-hmm. Now we're just going to motor right on through these. I will set the timer and go.
All right. Wonder Woman 1984, directed by Patty Jenkins, starring Gal Gadot. It's Gadot. That's how you pronounce it, right?
I think it's Gadot.
Gal Gadot, Chris Pine, Kristen Wiig, and Pedro Pascal. Okay, let me start this. Right when it started, and then we sort of had that kind of double opening where it was the Amazonian race and then the mall heist. I was like, okay, cool. It's going to be, it reminded me of Wonder Woman in the sense that, all right, it's going to be kind of fun. We're going to have, some zippy little action. I'm like, not a problem. Especially the mall part. I'm thinking, okay, maybe we're going to, kind of really get a very 80s feel out of this movie. Although everybody seemed to, at first and maybe it was just me, I'm like, everybody's acting a bit extra. Like, it almost felt a little over the top-ish, but I was like, but it's fine. It's an 80s mall. These are bumbling crooks. No problem. She's coming in. She had fun with the little girl. She took care of business. I'm like, cool. After that, oh, man. I'm just going to say two words. Wishing stone. There it is. There's a wishing stone. It's people making wishes. I was like, that's the villain. Wishes. I just kind of stopped. I was like, that's it? That's going to be the baddie? That's Pedro Pascal in a nutshell? I kind of sort of tuned out, really. It felt far too long at that point. I mean, the movie is like 2.5 hours. And then considering there's only 2 more action sequences. There's 3. One in the desert with her and Chris Pine. And then there's
the gunfight at the White House and then the thing at the radio tower.
But doesn't it go from the White House to the radio tower? Kind of, sort of?
No, she has to say goodbye.
Oh, she says goodbye to him in between. Okay.
Yeah, and then there's like a break in between.
All right. Yeah, man, I'm just, oh boy. I mean, there wasn't even any 80s music, And then the Chris Pine coming back, he's like a spirit in somebody else's body. And then when that happened, and I was like, wait a second. So what happens with that guy? Like does he just...
It's a good existential question.
I mean, it's weird because how he comes back, he doesn't physically come back. Like, she wishes for him, his spirit comes in this other guy's body, and like he steps in front of a mirror, and we still see that it's this other person, but obviously they have the face of Chris Pine because that's who Wonder Woman sees. She's seeing him. And it's weird, but the first thought I sort of had since that's the way they're going, was like, so what's going to happen to that guy's life? Like, They just sort of seem cool with how it is. I'm like, did he lose his job? Was he married? I mean, did he have kids? I mean, who knows? But this whole thing with the wishes, and everybody makes a wish, and then there's a price to be paid for the wishes, which by itself is not a terrible premise. But some of these things that people were wishing for were just like, I'm like, what? And then the price paid is just like, what? And then the villain, Pedro Pascal, he's manipulating people to making wishes, and he gets, in a roundabout way, something out of it. But yet he's kind of, I thought he was dying. At least that was the sense I was getting with each wish being made. But yet he didn't die. Listen.
Where do you put it?
Listen. Listen. Yeah. I'm going to put this. I'm glad it was on HBO Max, because no way in hell I'm paying full price, matinee price. I'm not even wasting a free ticket price on this thing. No. It's got to be streaming for me to want to sit down and devote 2.5 hours. I haven't even gotten to the part about Kristen Wiig becoming Cheetah, and the CGI wasn't even that great. And the fact that she finally becomes Cheetah, has one scene, and that's it. I was like, wow, didn't even do anything. Again, no. If I had to give it a 1 to 10, maybe a 4. I'm like, what are you doing, DC Universe? What are you doing? What's the point? Why? Is this the best bad guy you can come up with? A rock? Basically. Okay. I'm sorry.
I didn't hate it that much. I thought it was, I agree that the opening 2 scenes were the best 2 scenes in the movie. And I wish that had kind of been more of the general tone throughout with action, because after those first 2 scenes, that's like 17 minutes of solid action. You have this hour and like 30-minute lull of no action. And it didn't, yes, it's set in the 80s and everybody's wearing 80s clothes, but you're right. There wasn't really any super heavy 80s music. I mean, he definitely used some, like synth and stuff in the score, but it's Warner Brothers. They have a whole catalog. They could have pulled some actual music that from the time
because
infused into
right,
the movie.
Because not to interrupt your thing, because let's be honest, if it wasn't for, let's say, the 80s clothes,
you wouldn't know.
Yeah, they didn't.
There's like no feeling of like, things in the 80s were kind of rough. Like if you watch movies with, like Coming to America, or like cities in the 80s were graffiti, and it was like they made it like 80s light. Like it was an idealized version of the 80s and like everything's beautiful and magical. And I know that Wonder Woman, seeing everything as like this newborn 1,000-year-old goddess or whatever, and everything's beautiful, but the 80s were a dark time. And I feel, and like if they wanted to do the go capitalism, Wall Street 80s feel, it needed to have that element of danger in it that it didn't have, and that element, that undercurrent of shady dealings that it didn't really fully form have. Like even the villain, at his heart was not a bad guy, and these are bad guys, and so it didn't have that undercurrent of danger that it could have had. I never felt worried really for Wonder Woman. Not really. I don't mind that they had the wishing stone, and essentially Pedro Pascal became a genie, and so he became the stone, and he could he grants the wishes, and then he would decide what was the thing that he could take. So he started taking people's health. That's why he didn't die, as his price for the wishes.
Oh, Lord.
As the genie. But I was disappointed that Cheetah, the way they made her become Cheetah, because that character is now essentially gone technically, and it's just one of Wonder Woman's better villains, for better or worse. And so that's unfortunate. I do understand where they were going with trying to maybe sort of, because Batman and Superman are all very sciencey, technology, reality for a superhero movie, reality based, and this was like magic, and they were trying to, like, maybe even the first Wonder Woman was very grounded in the realities of World War One until that big thing at the end with Ares, which I feel like that was a studio intervention. And I do feel like there was a lot of studio intervention in this because the whole thing was a wish. Chris Pine could have came out of nowhere. He could have been just poofed out of nowhere. They could have really went full 80s and made it be like, since she was in the mall, he was a mannequin that came to life, and they did a whole mannequin thing, which I would have been totally down for and on board with. And because they didn't address the consequences of using this man's life,
right,
and essentially Diana being willing to give up this other man's life to get her love back. And I feel like the only reason they made it a quantum leap situation was because the original intention was to address that. I think that otherwise it didn't make any sense. Like, why have it at all if you're never going to address it? And I think that was something that was intended to make Diana more of a human character who is making a bad choice based on a lie, and potentially, like, her only consequence was losing her power. But if her consequence was destroying a man's life, that's much more powerful. And I think that was the original intention. But then the studio was like, that's really sticky. We don't want to do that. Let's get rid of that, because it makes her make some questionably bad choices and then have to, like, really decide to not be a selfish, horrible person and destroy someone's life for the sake of your own happiness. And I think that would have been much more important and more powerful. And I mean, like the darker implications of, like, this man hasn't given consent and he's had, like, sexual relations with, you know, a random woman. He's been on a bender for a week and a half in a fugue state. Like, it makes it so much more intense and darker and meaningful. But the fact that they never addressed it and made it be no reason, and then he's totally fine at the end.
Yeah.
Completely undercut all of that. So it didn't make any sense for it to be that way at all. He could have just appeared out of nowhere if you're never going to address the darker implications of having stolen someone else's body. I do think it was, for the most part, it's middle of the pack for me as far as the DC movies go. You know, with Justice League, Batman versus Superman, Man of Steel, Shazam, like, Aquaman, like, it's not any worse than the worst of those. I really don't think so. Like, I think it's better. I still think it's better than Batman versus Superman. It's kind of middle of the pack for me as far as those movies. It's not as good as the first Wonder Woman by any means. It is okay if you have, like, you know, little kids and they want to see a superhero movie because we have nothing else going on right now. It's totally watchable and it's fun. It's just, you know, there's definitely points that it felt like there was a lot of cooks in that kitchen.
I can see that.
What about, you know, her jet and the invisible jet? And then, like, you know, making that come to fruition was a little ham-fisted. It's like, if she had been trying to do that, is like, if they had more flashbacks of her growing up as a kid and, like, trying to learn her different powers and never being able to master them, and then, like, Wonder Woman, like, flew at the end and it was supposed to be, like, magical and stuff, but they never really, like, it was ham-fisted because it was like a 1-second conversation with Chris Pine about how to catch air and not something that maybe she had been trying to learn how to do her entire, like, her child, because she can fly. Wonder Woman can fly. Like, let's not say that came out of nowhere as a power she has. She can fly, but she hasn't up until this point, and she doesn't in the future. And so that could be, like, it could have been more powerful. Like, why doesn't she? Like, maybe she was, like, in like the race or something, like, that's part of it. She flew and cheated. And
that would
like,
have been perfect.
So then she's, like, she doesn't want to do it again because she associates these bad feelings with being able to fly. But then she also associates, you know, being able to fly with her lost love. And it's like these emotional hangups that she has attached to flying. Like, they could have done some more with it. It was just very surface level. But a movie that you don't have to think too hard about. It's
true.
just, you can put it on. It's not it's definitely not as like emotionally invested as the first Wonder Woman. Gal Gadot is perfectly fine as Wonder Woman, but and Chris Pine, and Pedro Pascal and Kristen Wiig, I feel like they're better than this movie. And that's unfortunate because we waited so long for it and it got hyped up and it was like this huge thing. And then it was just sort of like, you know?
Yeah.
I would have seen it as a matinee. I would still say it's totally worth a matinee. Now that it's on HBO Max, it's worth HBO Max. But I wouldn't have, if I had ran out and saw this on opening night, I would have been underwhelmed, is where I would put it. As far as going in the DC universe we got Suicide Squad and Harley Quinn and all that shit in there. So it's definitely in the middle of the pack. It's not the worst, and it's certainly not the best. They've already greenlit a third one, so we'll see. I just feel like if they want Wonder Woman to be a god, that's fine. But there needs to be more human emotional stakes. Like, she can't just be afraid. Like, that whole thing in the beginning was about, I feel like Patty Jenkins had set it up to be about, cheating and hurting other people and, not about losing her power. Because it was all in there. And it was like somebody higher up was like, that's too heavy for the movie we want to sell to everybody. Like, there's too many dangerous implications to the movie that we're trying to package as, a brightly colored sunshine movie. And so, I mean, maybe as a director, she's a little bit more sophisticated than what these tentpole movies require or what they think that they should be, because we saw what happened with Justice League and how doing what the studio said it should be is not what the fans wanted. And now we're getting the 6-hour Snyder cut of what we know these characters can be. And so I think that we know that Patty Jenkins knows what this character can be. We got that from the first Wonder Woman when she had more autonomy, and they didn't, think too hard about it because it was just it was like kind of let her go because it wasn't, they didn't have that much expectations. And so now there's all these expectations and all of this input and all of this extra flash and cash, and the substance wasn't there. And it's unfortunate because it was there. Like, you could see the seeds of it were there. And so that leads me to believe that was like a meddling situation. But what are you going to do? It's on HBO Max.
Yes, it is.
The cameo at the end was nice, fun little fan service. I doubt anything's going to happen with that, which would be cool if it was a third movie and something happened with that and it was like became something like, and not just a throwaway gag for diehard Wonder Woman fans. I don't understand. Nobody had any repercussions to any of it. Like, does he go to jail now? Does he go? What happens? Does she go to jail now? Did she kill that guy? Like, the cheetah and that guy, like the guy.
I know.
What happens to anybody? Nothing happens and nothing matters and no consequences for any of it. It all went away.
Yep.
And then, and did we even watch a movie? Like, maybe not. Maybe we just didn't. Maybe nothing. Are we even doing this show right now?
Is this real life?
Just a fugue state? Are we all in a fugue?
Is this somebody's wish that they didn't renounce?
Who am I? Who even am I? Like, that's how I feel about this movie.
Yeah, Wonder Woman. Yeah. But what I know is real is hitting that bell, hitting the subscribe button, making sure you stick around for more of our 10-minute takes. And you can also find more of that on our website, tcatnetwork.com. We've got our 10-minute takes. We've got links to our podcast. We got links to Good Morning Antioch as well as the reading. So we know that's real. And we wish for you all to stop by as much as possible and click on the links and give us likes and comments and all that sort of good stuff. That's one wish we will not renounce. Yeah. So do that, and then we'll see you next time.
I liked it more when I saw it than thinking about it later.
That's true. Thinking about it takes it away.